Fort William. Fort William has a high suicide rate, it's got a high drugs rate and a high alcoholic rate. So there's a lot of problems in this small town. It must be a town of about 15,000 in the middle of nowhere, so there's not much to do. I actually had a loving mother who wasn't a Christian to start off with. She wasn't from a Christian family, but due to the death of her son, my brother, she was saved. And so as a child, I knew there was something different, there was something unique about my mother compared to my other friends' mothers. They came from broken homes like myself, but there was something different about her. She had a peace that a child could feel and see, and I just knew there was something different there. So, however, at the age of 12, my mother turned her back on God. She became an alcoholic for 15 years, and she battled addiction. And at the age of 15 myself, I started taking drugs, started using alcohol, and I was quickly selling drugs in school. I also had a reputation as a fighter on the streets of Fort William, a lot of violence. I was involved with criminal activity from a young age, and this carried on right up until the age of 27 years old. So life was chaotic. I lived a chaotic life. I moved from one house to the next, one town to the next, and always came back to my hometown in Fort William. I narrowly escaped prison many times. Also put my mother, I put her through hell. I put her through a lot of worry. She would have the police at the door looking for me on a regular basis, and she worried that because of my chaotic lifestyle, she worried that I might be the next son to die. I might be another son. Every time the door went, the front door, she thought, is my son dead, or is he in prison for a very long time? But I didn't care. I didn't care. I was on a life to destruction. And at the beginning, I thought, it says in the Bible that sin is good for a season. I enjoyed what I was doing for a while, but then my life just turned to, it was just destroyed. But at the age of 25, my life turned around because a son came in. My son came into my life. His name is Noah. He was born, and I wanted to be a better father than my own father. He left me at 6 years old. But I realised I couldn't change. I couldn't change myself. And I believed that for many years, that I would be able to change. But I realised that when I took my son home from hospital, I wasn't able to change. And my mind was messed up. So what I started to do, I realised I was helpless and I was broken. So I started to seek God. God was my last hope. I realised that a doctor couldn't help me, or no one could fix my problems. God was literally my last hope. And if that didn't work, I was going to kill myself or end up in prison for a long time. So I started to seek Jesus. And for the next 2 years, God's Holy Spirit was drawing me to Jesus. That's what was happening. I heard the gospel being preached, and I knew that Jesus could forgive me for all my sins. He could forgive me for all the mess that I caused, and all the hurt and all the pain that I caused in my life. And this hope of Jesus could transform me. And this gave me to hear the message that I could have a new heart. Change my heart from the stone into a new heart of flesh. To hear the hope that Jesus could bring, that He could renew my mind, because my mind was so destroyed by what I put myself through. So this hope filled me up like never before. And at the age of 27, I was broken, living in homeless accommodation. I cried out to God, asking for help, asking if He would change me from the man who I was, that I would live for Him, I would do whatever it takes. And I wasn't even sure if He was listening when I cried out, but He answered. And so He did. After I cried out to God, He heard my call, He heard my cry, He answered. From that point on, Jesus became my Lord and Saviour. He moved in such a way, He just drew me to Himself. He changed my life, transformed me. I was a man who had a lot of anger and hatred. But now I wanted to know Jesus. Now God was going to transform that, all that anger, all that hatred. He was going to transform that into someone that loved people. Someone that had a love for people who were broken. Someone that had a love for people who were addicted to drugs. When the other people had written them off as helpless and hopeless, I knew that God could change them because He'd done that in my life. And that is the power of the gospel. It's this good news that can change people. That's the only hope that we've got. So the first 5 years of my Christian walk was rocky, to say the least, to be honest with you. Due to the fact that I had to unravel my whole life for many, many years, over 10, 12 years. I lived a life of crime and chaos and all the rest that comes with that. And in fact, that's maybe a word from you, that if anyone comes into this church, or you know people that have just been Christians and have lived dangerous lives, you don't just change overnight. That's very unlikely to happen. God can do that, but for me, it took me a long time. So for 5 years, I had to unravel a lot of crime and addiction and sin. But God didn't write me off. Maybe other people did. God did not write me off, though. Even when I wanted to give up, God still held on to me. And God eventually gave me help through an outstanding discipleship organisation called 20 Schemes. I'd done 5 months in Christian rehabilitation, and this is after me being a Christian for 5 years. I fell back into the world, and then I cried out for help. So I'd done a Christian rehab programme for 5 months. Then I'd done a 10 months programme living with a Christian family, watching how they live, watching how a godly family operates, because I didn't know what that was. And now I'm a full-time worker and an intern for 20 Schemes, an organisation called 20 Schemes, and I'm on my 3rd year of this internship. And this summer I will be taken on as a men's gospel worker to bring the good news of Jesus to the people who are lost in Scotland's poorest areas. I also hope to get married next year to a lucky American girl called Christy. And she works in family ministry, a director there in a church called Park Church in Denver. So there's some good stuff that God's doing in my life. You know, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of challenges, just like that song that we just sung. And so the Scottish culture and schemes is they're like your projects that you would get in Kentucky, here in Kentucky, and they are made up of people who have seen abject poverty. That's what a Scottish scheme is. Abject poverty. They know what drugs are. They know what alcohol and crime is. It's a part of life. It's a normal part of life. And it's normal to see broken homes that have very little hope in these schemes of Scotland. However, the people in schemes are very tight-knit people. The families are very tight-knit, stay close together. They're very loyal to their families. And they hate the police. They don't like authority, and it takes a long time to gain these people's respect and their trust in a scheme. You don't just go in one day and everyone's your friend. It takes years, at least 2 years, to gain people's true respect. So there's a lot of spiritual darkness in Scotland, a lot of oppression, a lot of spiritual darkness. And what 20 Schemes hopes to bring is the good news of the gospel to the most deprived areas of Scotland. We hope to bring lasting change and make discipleships there, make disciples of Indigenous people. We want to make leaders and pastors and women's workers who can change families, who can change communities, and even change nations. That's the vision. And 20 Schemes' vision is to plant 20 churches in the 20 most deprived areas of Scotland. And so far, we have 7 churches in a few different cities of Scotland, 3 or 4 different cities of Scotland. We have 7 church plants in the poorest area of Scotland. So I'm just going to now show you a bit of this PowerPoint. And this is the church plant of Bingham and Magdalen. And what we have here is Bingham and Magdalen in the bottom 5 deprived areas of Scotland. So there's a huge social problems there. And Bingham is actually where the church is situated. but it's right on the border, right on the same road as Magdalen. So it's strategic, we can reach both schemes. So if we move to the next one, the population is roughly 5,000 for both schemes, Bingham and Magdalen. Magdalen is very, very deprived area. There's, just recently there was someone found in a wheelie bin dead, so it's very deprived. Less than 0.5% self-confession evangelical Christians. So there's no gospel churches in many of these areas of Scotland. And if you do have churches, it's in the middle class or people where there's money. But the poorest of areas are forgotten about. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the families that have moved into Bingham. So we have got the main hub is Niddrie Community Church, and that is the main source of 20 schemes. And they grow and train leaders. They train me, Indigenous people, and then we go into the rough areas of Scotland. So this is one of the schemes. So these are some of the families. So move on to the next slide. And the vision, like I said before, is to bring the good news of Jesus into Bingham and Magdalen. That's our aim, number one aim. So this is a short story I'll tell you. Paul and Graham, Paul is the church plant leader, and he and Graham were walking around this area over 2 years ago praying. And they seen this hall, and they went in and visited the people who were in there. And the youngest was 72 years old out of this church, and the oldest was over 90. But they had been praying for 6 months before for someone to take over this church because it was dying. You know, these people were going to be dead soon, all of them. And Paul and Graham walked in, and basically within 3 months to 6 months, they were able to have this church signed over for nothing, free. God provided it for them. And this is what the building looks like. So if we move on to the next slide, this is inside. You can see it's dated, very old. They had no one coming. There was no one from the local church, no one from Bingham or Magdalen would ever go and hear the gospel in here. It was dead. Next slide, please. And this is the kitchen. Just keep moving. That's Paul. He's smaller than me. He's that size. Paul used to be, he was in rehabilitation as well. He had a very checkered past, colourful past. But God transformed his life. He's been a Christian for 12 years now. So this is Bingham and Magdalen. So that was what the church was like before. And someone just over a year ago, a big church in England put in some money. So I think there was £50,000 to £60,000 cheque to renovate this whole building. And we've now got a cafe. So if we move on to the next slide. So what we've done now is we've knocked away the front door, put glass in there so people can see that it's alive. You know, people are in here and it's functioning. So this is what it looks like now inside. This is a cafe. That's me and Paul serving our first customers. The cafe just opened up there on February. This is a community meal. So we do every Wednesday we do a community meal, and we give away a free meal, and then there's a message after it. We share the Bible with people. Just keep moving on. This is it full again. This was Easter. We've got big Brian there. Brian, we try to get him a bunny rabbit, but that's a unicorn. So. Brian was addicted to heroin for 19 years, homeless, and he's been a Christian now for 2 years, been clean, and I'm discipling him. That was an Easter, the Easter message, and I managed to share the good news with a family of 50 people. There was 50 people altogether, so they heard the truth. So this is some of the stuff that we do. Team Bible studies, we do prayer meetings every single morning from 9 o'clock till 10. Team meals, discipleship is a massive thing that we do. You know, everything is 24 hours a day, discipleship. Next slide, please. And this is some of the kind of community meals, Bible studies. We do a kids event once a month, and there's a lot of women are coming to Christ. A lot of women are being saved. But the one problem, one of the things I would ask for is that you could pray that men come to Christ, because men are very, very suspicious in Scotland, especially in the schemes. And I've been taken in to try and reach men. It's taken 3 months already to start to make a few contacts, but yet there's no men being saved yet, so pray for that. And yeah, one of the things few things that you could help as 420 schemes or Bingham, or for me even in particular, would be to pray for us. We've got prayer cards there, a prayer card with my name on it, and you can pray for us, just lift us up for these things. If you remember us, also another way to help out, one other ways to help would be to give financially. I have to earn my own, I have to get sponsors to each year to function and to do what I'm doing. And I believe God provides, and I don't worry about these things. And another way is to come. So if God puts it on your hearts to come and visit us in Scotland, 20 schemes like Pastor Stephen's doing, then you should be more than welcome. You can come for a week or come for 3 months, whatever. Whatever. There's even 2-year courses that can be done. But these are some of the ways that you can help us as an early church plant in Bingham and Magdalen. So yeah, I think that's us. Yeah. Thanks very much for listening. Appreciate it.
All right, so as you can see that they are doing a lot of great work over there. These guys have to raise their own money to do this full time. They share the gospel, they do discipleship, and they're trusting in the Lord for funds. So if God puts it on your heart to help sponsor Martin, talk to him after this. If you want to personally help him and his family, as he's going to try to bring a wife over to his country from Denver. It's going to be a big change for her for sure. But just pray for them and just pray how you can give and support him and his ministry. Here's the cool thing about Martin. He accepted God, he accepted Christ, he fell back, he got back in, and now he's full-time sharing the gospel. I mean, that's what the Lord does to hearts and souls. It changes our very nature to where he no longer lives for himself, but as soon as he accepted Christ and truly embraced it, he had a heart and a vision for other people. That's what God does to us. That's why I'm standing here and speaking to you today, because I have a passion for the supremacy of God, not just in my personal life. I have a passion to see the supremacy of God in your life. I long to see and to worship with you guys every week, to see you and hear you lift your voice and worship the Lord. So this morning I'm not going to do a full sermon, just a little bit to kind of go along with what Martin talked about. But basically what the Bible teaches us to do is to love our neighbors. Love because we are loved. I want to just show you this morning 3 verses, all right? Might do a little bit more than 3, but let's start with these 3 game changers, all right? I just want to give you 3 verses, all right? And see what these verses do to you. If you believe this to be true, what do these 3 verses do? John 3:16, you should know that one. Pretty simple. For God so loved the who? The world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Do you believe that that is truth? Okay. No, the second one is Mark 16:16. Whoever believes and is baptized will be what? Saved. But whoever does not believe will be condemned. And then Romans 10:14. How then will they call on him whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching to them? I mean, what do these 3 verses do? If you believe these 3 little verses, it will change the entire direction of your life. Just with 3 verses, the very course of our life changes. These verses tell us a few things, just a couple observations. Number 1, they tell us that man will be condemned. They are all heading for judgment and damnation from a just and holy God. A God who has revealed himself in nature and in the person of Christ, has fully made himself known, and without him they will be condemned. That's what these verses tell us. These verses also tell us that God is, and I had to argue with someone over this the whole week, that God is love. He is the only true source of love that we know. And in fact, He loves the world. He loves people in Bullock County, and He loves people in the schemes in Scotland. He loves people. In fact, He loves the world so much that it says that He gave, to show you how much He loves the world, He gave His only Son as a sacrifice for undeserved, crazy creatures. We are. Martin, I think we are all chaotic at times in our lives, and a lot of people can probably relate to that chaos that they've lived in their heads and their minds. And God would send His own Son to do what we could not. He would pay the full amount. There is nothing that you can do to earn you heaven. You can't do it. It's a free gift. And He has done it. He has made the road to Himself available and possible. And He loved the world so much that He gave His only Son. These verses also tell us, and this is how simple it is, that whoever believes in Him will be saved. Like Martin said, that is good news. That's what gospel is. Evangelion is the good news of the gospel, that they can in fact be saved. This also tells us that whoever does not believe will be condemned. These are promises and they are guarantees. He promises us that they can be saved, and He does promise us that those who don't believe will be condemned. These verses also tell us that they will not believe if they don't hear the gospel. This is more than just putting out a tract. This is a personal invitation to people to come and accept the free gift of the gospel. These verses tell us that messengers must be sent, and they must tell them the gospel message. If they do not hear, they will not be saved. This is a call not to just pray for people. We can all do that. That's the job I know that you can do as a church. But you are called as individuals to share the gospel with these people. And if you're not going to share the gospel with them, help others share the gospel with them. Send, support, help. If you believe these 3 little verses, your life can change. So let me ask you, do you believe these 3 verses? That unless the preacher goes, how will they hear? They need to hear. Jim Elliot in Ecuador, he believed that those tribes needed to hear the gospel, and he and the other missionaries paid with their life. They need to hear the gospel. Is your life shaped by these verses currently? I want to show you this quote by my boy, David Brainerd, missionary to the Indians, 1800s. He said this: "This morning about 9, I withdrew to the woods for prayer. I was in such anguish that when I arose from my knees, I felt extremely weak and overcome. I cared not how or where I lived or what hardships I went through, so that I could but gain souls for Christ." This man was in the woods praying because he lived in a teepee with the Indians, while there was a colony just a couple miles down the street. But he lived with the Indians and he shared the gospel with them, and he had tuberculosis. There was no Wi-Fi in his teepee. Okay? He didn't have, we just bought a king-size bed. I cannot wait. The mattress is nice. He didn't have that. He slept on the ground with tuberculosis. And have you ever felt anguish over that? That you could hardly get up. You feel so weak and overcome with grief because souls are not being gained for Christ. We weep in anguish because we have anxiety over our job, or where we're going to take vacation, or I don't know what to do. Do we mourn and weep for the right reasons? See, I believe David Brainerd believed these verses, that they will be condemned if they don't hear the gospel. It is said that the Indians were going to kill him when they saw him in the woods. And another quote, he talked to the chief later, and they came with spears, and they said that they were going to kill him, but they saw him on his knees weeping for a people. They could hear him crying out to something, and so they decided not to kill him because they said a spirit was on him. And they didn't kill him because he was praying for their souls, and they didn't know that. How amazing, how true. Is your life shaped by the gospel? Do you feel anguish for the people that live next door to you? See, you don't have to go to Scotland to be a missionary. You have people all around you that need a personal invitation to the Lord. Do you feel this weight? Do you truly care if others around you believe or disbelieve? Do you believe that Jesus is exclusive, that He is the only way, the truth, and the life, and that there is no other hope, no other path to God. Whoever believes in him will be saved, and whoever does not believe will be condemned. There's a God-instilled passion that he puts within us. I know that only a true child of God can have a passion for the supremacy of God in all things. And only a true child of God will have the desire to tell other people about Christ. The true desire out of love to tell them that. And I know this because of these verses. Let's look at these. Sorry, I fooled you. Ezekiel 36:26. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. In 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, and behold, the new has come. So we know that the old things that pass away are human, earthly desires. Some of you Christians can attest to this. Before you were saved, you didn't have a passion for reading. And then all of a sudden, when Christ came into your life, you wanted to know more. You wanted to dive in. You wanted to go deep. You wanted to read more and more of the Bible. You had a hunger for the Word. You had a hunger for God. You didn't love God, but now you really love God. The only way we can explain that is the heart of stone to a heart of flesh is because God himself has put that in you. He has placed that desire to love him inside of you. And if God has made you a new creation and a new creature, and he has given you a heart of flesh, that heart of flesh not only allows you to love God the way you should, but will also create in you a desire to love other people the way you should. That's what the gospel does. So what is the fuel for evangelism today? Why should I go to my neighbor and tell them about Jesus? What is the duty, what is the purpose of which I do these things? Let's look at 1 John real quick. 4:19-21. We love because he first loved us. Can you repeat that back to me? We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he does not love his brother whom he has seen, cannot love God who has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother. See, as a church, we could conjure up evangelism strategies for days. I could have you just pass out things or do things. We could put on a big show and big lights. It doesn't take much for you to simply hand out a flyer or say, come to church. That's easy. If that's the form of evangelism you're scared of, you're in for a rude awakening when the Bible talks about it. It's much more involved. Evangelism is a matter of the heart and the soul. It's an affection issue. 1 John, we see that the true motive for evangelism isn't dutiful service, but is love. Love is the motive and the fuel for why we share the gospel with other people. So when I was a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts. Anybody else in the Boy Scouts? Wakanda. We're the true brothers. Alright, so Boy Scouts was terrible, okay? Well, at least my part. Because all we did was collect canned goods. I felt that's like all we did. Canned goods, canned goods. Who has canned goods anymore? So, anyways, so when I collected canned goods, I wasn't thinking about, man, I really hope this can of peaches feeds a homeless belly. The only thing I cared about when I was collecting canned goods was I wanted to get my badge that said I was a servant, and also I just wanted to beat the other guys and say, hey, look, I got more canned goods than you do. Look at all my canned goods. That was the motive for me collecting canned goods. It was a badge, and I just wanted to be better than everybody else around me. A lot of people, and even Pharisees, will share the gospel because they're trying to gain some kind of badge with God. Look at what I'm doing, Lord. Look what I've done. But at the bottom of those affections better be love. If I've married my wife just because I want people to see that I'm married and responsible, I don't know. That's not why you get married. I married her because I loved her. No matter what I did or could do, I couldn't get her off of my mind or out of my heart. We broke up like 3 times in college. But every time it was like a week. And we were just couldn't let go of each other. And that was totally God within our hearts. But the reason why we love and the reason why we share the gospel with people is because God has placed within us the capacity to love strangers for the gospel. And if you grew up not feeling this, if you weren't pushed out on the streets, if you grew up apart from Christ, and suddenly you have Christ in your life, this is much more clear to you, that you have affection for other people. And that only comes from God. What produces this love for others inside of us? Well, verse 19 tells us, we love because He first loved us. He first loved us. The love of God is a river, not a pond. It flows to us and through us towards all humanity. It is moving. It is constant. It is a flow. If you have felt the love of God, and some of you in here know what I'm talking about, you have felt this crazy, deep love from the Lord, and you feel that it's not a pond. It doesn't get stagnant with you. It runs to you and through you towards all humanity. And it is poured out onto people. Did Jesus say to the disciples, hey, I died for you guys. That's cool. Let's all go to heaven together. No, He died and He said, now go and you tell. You go and you give your life for this. There's nothing more important, nothing more beautiful than this. You go. This is why you exist. Tell people of my love and go. And I will send you a helper to do so, because we need help doing that, amen? We do need some help. Only the soul that has been saved can care about other souls. You will not have the capacity to do so if it is not from God Himself. When you see people, okay, when you leave this place and you look at people in Kroger, wherever you go, how do you see humans? C.S. Lewis said, there are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Nations, cultures, arts, civilizations, these are all mortal. And their life is to ours as the life of a gnat. But it is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit. Immortal horrors or everlasting splendors. Cultures come and go. When you look at a person, don't see their culture, don't see the dividing lines between you. See them as a soul, as someone who will live into eternity. There are no such thing as just mere mortals. Every soul you come into contact with has an eternal destiny. And it is our obligation out of love to pour our hearts out unto them. It is out of love that we do this. We love them because we have been shown such love. I think this is so beautiful. And one of the coolest things that Martin told me, and he said up here, was that there are Christian families who open their homes to people who are coming out of rehab to live with them for 10 months. Isn't that beautiful? Is your home open? Is your home open like that? Hey, you're coming out of rehab, come into my home, and we'll show you what Christianity looks like. We'll show you what it means to love Christ first and foremost. Is your home open? Do you love that way? Man, I wish we could do that